Hello and welcome to another edition of the People's Lawyer channel. Today we're looking at a particularly urgent situation for all those who already home educate and those who have plans to home educate to keep their boys and girls out of harm's way and out of the school danger zone, as I call it. We're going to look at this problem in 5 sections. We're going to start with a wake-up call and then move on to take a brief helicopter ride around the key provisions of the schools bill that are relevant to the home educating situations. We'll look at natural law remedy to the threat posed by the schools bill. We'll remind ourselves of the difference between law and legislation, because that is fundamental to our remedy and to our peace of mind. To be quite honest, we'll finally look at what the future holds and how we can future-proof ourselves with the right attitude and the right collective action. And at the very end, I'm going to make a call to action, an appeal to parents and guardians of boys and girls to contact me to take this further. So section 1, the wake-up call. If you are currently sending or intending to send your boy or girl into school for regular attendance, this is how we would describe the implications of what you're doing or proposing to do. If the boy or girl is aged 5 to 7, we would say that that is aiding and abetting child sacrifice. If the boy or girl is aged 8 to 10, we would say that that is aiding and abetting child abuse. If the boy or girl is aged 11 to 13, we would say that that is aiding and abetting or complicit in child neglect. Now, why are we using such strong, evocative, emotive, powerful, dramatic language? Well, first of all, we want to get your attention. And for those of you who don't already realize it, we want to get across the idea that we are at war, that humanity is being attacked, and in particular, they are coming for our boys and girls. If this weren't correct, if this analysis weren't correct, why are they teaching 4-year-olds how to masturbate and the so-called joys of sexuality at an age where they haven't even learned to count or read and write yet? Why are they rewriting history? Why are they promoting random gender confusion and sexual chaos? Why are they taking God or divinity off the curriculum? The schools bill, which we'll discuss briefly, creates a requirement to replace church schools and faith schools, in effect, with business schools known as academies. They will just be businesses, places where profit is made and boys and girls become human resources, and they're already referred to, they have been for some time, as economic units. One teacher that went to a conference about 10 years ago, already they were referring to children as the product at teacher training conferences. Why are they preparing, and this is actually happening, children for mass panic events and overnight lock-ins? Is that where they could respond to the fact that parents who are waking up are no longer agreeing for their boys and girls to be injected? Could that be a situation in which they pretend that there's a massive health threat out there, they lock down the boys and girls and say that it will be safe to go out if you just take one more injection? So we are witnessing a takedown of humanity, and we really do need to wake up right now if we're not already awake. Let's move on to having a brief look at the schools bill. This is a power grab implemented by government for the local authorities. In the past, home educators had the option, the binary option, of simply putting their boy or girl into school or keeping them at home. And that was it. No further questions were asked. But now, under the schools bill, that education at home will have to pass certain tests, and certain information will have to be provided so that the local authority that is now playing God and usurping parental role in loco parentis, that local authority will have to be satisfied that the boy or girl is receiving, quote, suitable education. Who decides that? So this is the new yardstick. So it's not making home education illegal per se, but it is one small step away from doing that. And we need to be so mindful and aware of what is taking place around us. If the local authority consider that the education is not suitable, they can in effect criminalize parents for failure to put their boys and girls into school. So it is not quite as simple as home education equals illegal, but home education in certain circumstances can lead to a criminalization of the parents involved. Let's take a brief look at what the schools bill says, which is relevant to our home educating parents. First of all, it gives local authorities a duty to maintain a register of CNISs, which is children not in school. So that's a new concept. So there is now an official concept of a child not in school. That's already sinister enough in itself. There is then a duty of parents to register children who are not in school, to register their CNISs. This is supplemented by a duty on parent or parents to provide information for that register. As far as the tutor or teacher is concerned, if it's an alternative environment that the boy or girl is being sent to, a notice can be served on anyone who has been entrusted with the education of the boy or girl where the parent is not present, to provide information about that out of school education and non-parentally involved education. There is one obvious get out. If you are taking responsibility for your boy or girl's education, as long as you're with the boy or girl at all times, then that's one way of steering clear of the potential harassment of the educator. Failure to comply by the educator, the tutor, where for some reason the parent is not present, means a warning notice. That warning notice gives information about an impending penalty notice with the amount of the penalty. That is then served on the tutor or educator. Just like a parking charge, it can be increased if unpaid after a certain time. The main period of compliance is 15 days in most of the parts of the legislation that I've seen. This is enforceable as a civil matter, so no need for police to be involved and no one can be committing an arrestable offence. Now, this is not quite the same for parents. Parents can be served by the local authority with something called a preliminary notice. Failure to comply with a preliminary notice will lead to something called a school attendance order, SAO, if the local authority consider it, quote, expedient, quote, another very sinister word. What does expedient mean and who decides it? On what basis? So you will be subject as a parent, a non-compliant parent, to an SAO, school attendance order, unless A, you can show that the child is receiving suitable education, and again, what is that and who decides it and on what basis? Or that you can show that you are not the parent and therefore that the statutory attendance order has actually got nothing to do with you. Here's the even more sinister part. Failure to comply with an SAO, statutory attendance order, is an offence. It goes on to say that a person found guilty of not complying with an SAO is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding level 3 on the standard scale or to a term of imprisonment. There we go, folks, imprisonment. So they will basically be imprisoning careless parents. When I say careless parents, parents who, with the best intention in the world, have not learnt how to operate their freedom and sovereignty or sovereignty. We will come to sovereignty and sovereignty shortly. It would be a term of imprisonment not exceeding 51 weeks. So this alone is going to put an incredible amount of stress, pressure, and fear on those home educating who are actually quite compliant. There are a lot of home educators who are more compliant than you might realize. And I think that this will lead to a lot of problems and maybe some kind of exodus from the home education scene. Hopefully it won't, but we shall see. The offence can be repeated. If the offence continues, guilt can be repeated. In other words, you might get a double or a triple fine, and who knows, 51 weeks plus another 51 weeks, or whatever number of weeks they gave you. It won't be 51 weeks. It just says not exceeding 51 weeks, especially if you're the sole carer. If it's a single parent, it would be really inconceivable to get even 1 day. But in this day and age, there's no guarantee of anything. Let's now turn our attention to remedy. We're going to divide this remedy up into various parts. Part 1 is know who you are. Question, Are you a person? If you look closely at the schools bill, like any legislation, they only ever refer to persons. They cannot refer to man or woman because men or women are not subject to legislation. It's only persons. The answer, of course, is that no, you are not a person, you're a man or a woman. And in fact, you are sovereign from birth. Now, I did mention sovereign as well. The difference is that sovereign is from birth and it involves self-determination and dominion over self. That no one is above you at law, no one is above you full stop. Sovereign would be a political status which involves you having an army, a castle, and you are exercising dominion over others. But sovereign simply does not have anyone else exercising dominion over him or her. As well as sovereign, you're a master of creation. If you want to know more about being a master of creation, well, just look around you. All the things that we create, including the healthful state of our own mind and body, is evidence of mastery of creation. If you are operating the cosmos's most powerful and intricate biological computer, you are a master of creation. What you say goes. Your word is your law. So someone who is a master of creation is not subject to their statutory rules and policies. More about that very shortly. Another question, are you a parent? And again, they're only penalizing parents. They cannot penalize a mother or a father, which is what you are. No is the answer, of course, you are a mother or a father. A parent and a child and a person are 2D fictional characters, names or labels on a piece of paper. The mother or the father is a 3D, a real life entity, a living, breathing man or woman of flesh and blood with a soul who is not subject to statutory policy. Another question, is your boy or a girl a child? Even on their birth certificate, they put boy or girl. This begs the question, when and how exactly did the boy or girl become a child? Part 2 of this remedy is know the true law of creation and ownership. Whatever you create, you own. This is an unwritten but undeniable principle of universal existence. Whatever is created is owned by its creator. You created the boy or girl, you therefore own and therefore control that boy or girl. However, the state created the child via the birth certification process. More about that in Disclosure 2021, one of our videos on YouTube and on the website, and in Disclosure 2022, which as we speak has yet to be filmed, but it will be filmed and released shortly. 2022, there's more detail than in 2021. The state created the child, the state therefore owns and controls the child. So be very wary of agreeing that you are a parent or that you have a child. That gives the state contract by joinder, permission, a license to escalate when you consent actively to being the person, the parent, or to having a child, or when you don't dispute what they're saying and therefore assent passively, usually by silent acquiescence, which in effect turns statutory policy into law. If you want to know more about the idea of the difference between statutory policy and law, then please wait for Disclosure 2022. The third remedy is use the power of the question. If they send written notices, you can use, especially if you catch it in the form of a data subject access request, or even better, a special data subject access request, the following questions. Question 1, are you making a claim? Question 2, what claim is it that you're making? Are you claiming that my boy or girl are your property? If so, on what basis? Are you claiming ownership of my boy or girl? Are you claiming that I am not their true mother or father? What are you claiming? Are you claiming that I am a person and that my boy or girl is a child? What lawful basis do you have to make these claims? Question 4, what evidence do you have to make these claims? Question 5, what lawful excuse do you have to breach our peace? Now, this is a reference to an equitable remedy. In equity, you are owed peace and good conscionable behavior. You are owed peace in equity, not just at common law in a public environment, but peace of mind within your own skin. If they're issuing you with threats, they are disturbing your inner peace. So think of equity as your inner peace. Inform them that without lawful excuse, they must cease and desist. And then deliver personal liability notice, ideally on a particular man or woman, a named man or woman, because the idea is that you are putting them off pursuing this, but you can only put them off if you hover over the target, which is the man or woman that's writing to you, because nobody else can write to you. A corporation, and particularly a corporation that doesn't sign its paperwork, cannot write to you. So you'd be writing to a man or woman who's doing business as whatever status or rank they give themselves. So you deliver personal liability notice for failure to cease and desist, and attach a fee schedule notice within the same letter or notice. Always reserve all your unalienable rights. That may cover you for a situation in which you may have inadvertently given them some kind of door opening. So reserve your unalienable rights as a man or woman, sovereign, master. Learn the art in particular of writing empowered letters or notices. We're all playing catch up, people out there. We're all playing catch up. They've got the art of threatening letters mastered. It's all on a computer now anyway. So we've never been in this situation before, and we need to rise above their templated, artificially intelligent, inspired letter writing, and rise above them, and either rise above psychologically or rise above technically by responding with superior notices and letters. If you get a visit to the door, then we have already released an agent at the door video, which you can watch on the website or on YouTube. Remedy number 4 is go private. So put up a private by appointment only notice on your door. So simply when they knock on, that is their first trespass because they have disrespected. Your notice is your law. So they're already in trespass simply by knocking on. If you're involved in any kind of activities club that used to be called an outdoor school or whatever, or any kind of education hub, make sure it becomes a private members only club. Number 3, if you get anything posted, return to sender, and there's more details about returning to sender on Disclosure 2022 when it comes out. Other operatives with information similar to this will be able to assist with return to sender. And finally, number 4, if you get text or emails, demand a deletion of your data under your GDPR right to erasure, which is Article 17 of GDPR. Section 4 now is a brief look at the difference between law versus legislation. Something that is never mentioned on the curriculum at school or at law school or anywhere is the Coronation Oath Act 1688, which refers to statutes, law and customs, which means that there are 3 concepts. The schools bill is a statute, which is now known as legislation. Legislation, according to the Coronation Oath Act, is not the same as law. So what we're doing now is standing under natural law based on the knowledge of the difference between right and wrong and the wisdom that goes with it. Statutes are simply policies implemented by corporate governments. We can rise above them as long as we know that we can and that we should, and we know exactly how to. Case law, and there is also an ancient example of case law that should inspire us in this situation. And this is Cruden versus Neal from the United States, 1796. That's how far back it goes. This is a quote from the judgment. There, every man is independent of all laws except those prescribed by nature. He is not bound by any institutions formed by his fellow man without his consent. So this reinforces what we've been saying for some time now, that they need, the government or local government via their statutory policy, need your consent so that they can operate what they call law. It's not law, but it becomes law when they feel that they have your consent. So you have to tread very carefully not to be seen or deemed to have given your consent, which is active, or assent, which is passive. As long as you're careful, you remain above their statutory rules. Just a reminder now of a quote by Leo Tolstoy: governments not only are not necessary, but are harmful and most highly immoral institutions. Section 5, future-proofing. We do not recommend using the terminology of governance. So we're not going to be going to any kind of alternative school, not going to have any kind of alternative education. We are simply engaging in fun activities, learning activities. We're going to be boys, girls, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters. We're not going to be person or persons, parents or children. I would also encourage people to find their tribe, boost the numbers, because the problem shared is a problem halved. The stress of being assailed by the authorities is going to be quite considerable. And if we don't have our support network, we are going to suffer an inordinate amount of stress. And that lowers immunity. And we know what happens next when our immune system is shot to pieces. Build trust in people, not institutions. So learn to distrust governance and trust your fellow man and woman. Let them into your life. They are your lifeline. It's really disheartening how many people out there, even those, and especially those with the best laid plans and the best intentions, seem to be cut off from their brothers and sisters. And that I find very concerning and disconcerting. So that will be something that we need to put an end to. Remember, prepare for battle, be ready for the battle, and surround yourselves with people who do not feel any kind of fear, who are ready to fight their corner lawfully and peacefully. If every group had someone with experience of being arrested or at least being threatened with arrest, that will bolster the general group or collective confidence. Finally, an appeal from the heart to all those who are involved in home education. Please contact me as soon as possible, preferably by email via the website. Via the live events page is probably best, so that we can organize something that I've already started to do, which is to give workshops and talks to home educating mums, dads, boys and girls. That is where I'm going to go for the latter part of 2022 and into 2023. It will be all about boosting the confidence and the numbers, so the quality and the quantity of those home educating, and making sure that this tyrannical agenda does not reach beyond their own front door. As ever, thank you very much for tuning in. There'll be more videos coming out throughout the summer. We're taking a breather from talks and courses. We're going to be focusing on the videos and on meeting key people and networking. Please like the YouTube video channel, subscribe to the website, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the Telegram channel. Be bold, be brave, be courageous. We are the ones we've been waiting for, and nothing must come between us and our incredible future that we alone are the masters of creating. Thank you once again for tuning in. Speak to you soon, and bye for now.